welcome to another episode of the Family Gamers Podcast. This is episode 391.
Hey, hello everybody. We are so delighted to be here for another one of these things. We, this week, are going to talk even more about cooperative games, Anitra.
Yeah, we're bringing back the Room to Grow series.
Yeah, so a lot of reasons for this. We got great feedback about cooperative games. Some people were even asking that we would talk more about cooperative games. It's Valentine's Day weekend, which is a time when we would like to cooperate with each other or something like that. But anyway, so we are going to talk Room to Grow cooperative games. But that's the second half of the show. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about first half of the show, including, Anitra, you're going to do the fact that I'm going to do the sponsor message this week.
Yes! Cooperation. So for 391, the deepest hand-dug well ever was 391 meters deep. That's 1,285 feet deep. That's like a quarter of a mile deep.
I mean, was it actually like hand dug or was it like dug with a machine?
No, like shovels and buckets.
That sounds horrible.
It took almost 6 years.
Oof.
And the thing is that this was started as a cost-cutting measure for a workhouse and school that was being built in Brighton in the UK back around 1850 or so. They thought like, oh, we'll dig 200 feet deep and we'll get water and it'll be great. They ended up well below sea level after 6 years before the workers realized there was water pressure pushing up the stone they stood on, and they very quickly climbed back up and then the well filled with water.
Okay, so they were standing on a stone, so they couldn't dig any deeper.
Well, they were digging through like shale and chalk and like they dug really deep.
Yeah, but eventually like you break through or something whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm imagining like a Mario game where like you're standing on a rock and like the water is shooting it up.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite like that.
I don't.
Well, it's more like they had been digging. They like reported for work to dig in the well, and they get down there like, this stone is moving. You know what? Let's not be down here anymore.
Yeah, I mean, was there like a final breakthrough? Did they like drop some dynamite down there or something?
It didn't say.
Okay, I mean, I'm just wondering. Anyway.
So I will link to the Guinness World Records on this for a little bit more information. But I thought it was really cool, although the story is also not so great.
I mean, terrifying. Like, you're a quarter of a mile into the ground. Like,
yeah.
I'm not the kind of person who gets claustrophobic, but I might start to get claustrophobic at that.
Well, and also keep in mind, this was being done on the cheap. So, like, these laborers were not really getting paid, and the working conditions were not good.
No, thank you. I mean, did they like, your sub's coming down, woo, and that's lunch?
Something like that, yeah.
That thing would kill you. Anyway. All right. We do also have a message from our sponsor. Anitra, did you know that when you buy a stock in the stock market, you are buying it from another investor?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah. In fact, for you to be able to buy the stock, you have to be willing to buy at a price that someone else is willing to sell. In other words, one person in the transaction has to believe the stock is undervalued and worth buying, and the other person has to think the stock is overvalued and it's a good idea to sell at that price. It's a little bit of a simplification since there are many other reasons investors buy and sell at certain prices, as we've seen many times, like with Enron, for example. That's an older one, but one individual stock can be really risky. Mutual funds, on the other hand, are bought from and sold to the fund company, but the price is determined by the value of the underlying stocks and bonds at the close of trading that day. What that means is you have to put in an order during the trading day without knowing what price the mutual fund will be. But mutual funds own a basket of stocks and or bonds and are thus more diversified and subsequently less risky than an individual stock. An exchange-traded fund, or ETF, brings these two things together. It's a basket of stocks and or bonds put together by a fund company, but you buy and sell it from other investors on the stock market. So, with an ETF, you get diversification and you get to decide the price you're willing to pay. If that primer on investments already has you overwhelmed and your head is currently spinning, first of all, unspin it and keep driving because you're probably driving when you listen to this. You may want to get help with managing your investments. First Move is here to help. Go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers to set up a time for free to see if they can help you make your first move with investments.
Thanks again to First Move Financial for sponsoring the Family Gamers Podcast.
All right. Anisha, This has been an okay week for playing games, I feel like.
Okay, I'm hoping for another good one because the kids have February vacation.
That's going to be a good one for you.
Yeah, well, maybe also for you. There's less stuff in the evening.
Yeah, I mean, there's hope. We can hope. All right, so let's get started. So we got a shipment in from Chip Theory Games, but not the games you're thinking of out there.
Well, maybe. If you've been listening to the Family Gamers podcast for a while, you know that at PAX Unplugged, I got to see the new Chip Theory Kids game line.
Mm-hmm. So I've played 2 of these.
Yes.
I have not played the one with the coolest name in my opinion.
Yes. And our son's favorite. So there are 3 games. I have played them all in the last 2 weeks. There is Bear in Mind. This is a fun storytelling and memory game. Like really chill, really calm. And there's enough to it that I had a fun time playing this with just you.
Yeah, it was cute. So in Bear in Mind, there are, 10 spots?
Little scenes, yeah.
Yeah, little scenes. And there's a pile of tiles. I like how that rhymes. And to start the game, you take the top tile, you look at it, it's got a little picture on it. You tell a story that's related to that picture, and then you, you can show the picture, so everybody sees it. But then you put that face down at one of the 10 locations. And you go around until everybody has done this with a tile. They take a tile, they look at the tile, they put a face down on one of these locations, and they tell a story about whatever's on that tile. Then you get to the second phase, which is the memory phase.
So now that all the locations are full, the bear has come out of hibernation and his friends are telling them what they did while he was away. And so the bear, you roll a die, you move the little bear guy, and whatever location it lands on, you have to try to remember the story of the item that you can't currently see and how that relates to this location. Once you've told the story back, you flip the tile over, and if you got it right, you get to keep that tile. You take a new tile off the stack and tell a new story relating to the new tile and that same location, and then put it face down. And you keep going around until after the pile of tiles is empty, and then someone rolls the die so that the bear ends up at a spot that doesn't have a tile. And then whoever has the most tiles wins the game. So it was fun in a very gentle kind of way. It's great for younger kids. You got this storytelling and memory, but there's all these layers to it. Doing it with high schoolers and adults, you're going to tie each event in a location to the next story that happens in that location and really kind of bring things together a lot more. It can help kids and frankly adults work on their writing skills in this storytelling kind of frame of mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's very low pressure, which I appreciate, but it is possible to get things wrong. I would imagine that if you had more than 2 people, it would get a bit easier, harder, just because you have different voices and the types of stories that you're going to hear are going to be different and stuff like that, and that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah. I will also point out, this game was designed by Reiner Knizia. It's nice to play a game from him that's so low pressure, though.
Sure. Yeah.
Most of his are not. Now, the opposite of low pressure is the one with the most fun name, Octo Grabbo.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this game, although I'd like to play it, but, you run with it.
Octo Grabbo is a dexterity game where you use chopsticks to pick up wooden pieces from, basically the box lid turns into your little, fish pond, and you're pulling out pieces. The reason it's Octo Grabbo is because if you're playing with younger kids who aren't great with chopsticks, or I suppose adults who aren't great with chopsticks, you can stick the chopsticks into these little octopus holders that turn it into a sort of a trainer. It's really cute. There are 2 different ways to play depending on if you want to do a gentler turn-based roll the die, pick up the related thing way, or if you want to play a fast and furious flip over a card, everybody tries to grab exactly the things that are pictured on that card. Either way, it's pretty fun as a dexterity game. I will say of the 3 of these games, I think it has the least legs, even though our kids are finding it the most fun.
Okay. So the third game is a game called Woodland Rush.
Yes. Woodland Rush is a speedy minigame game. I think there are 6 or 7 different types of mini games, and what you're doing is on your turn, you have a 1-minute timer. You flip over the timer, and then you flip over the top card in the stack, and you do the type of minigame that is pictured on that card. So it could be a memory matching game, and you're looking for a specific thing in the memory matching tiles. It could be a stacking game, and you need to stack things in a specific order as pictured on the card. It could be a sort of identification game that there are 4 little animal guys, and a card shows you 3 animals. Whoever can grab the missing animal first wins that card. And there's a couple more. There's putting stuff in order and stuff like that. There are some cards that just give you points and you don't have to do anything else. But the point is to try to get through as many of those cards in a minute as you can, and then it's the next player's turn to flip over the timer and get as many cards as they can in a minute. It's very frantic. I will also say that when we played this according to the rules, we ran out of cards before the game was supposed to be over, partly because on our son's turn, he grabbed these extra cards that let you flip the timer back over, and being a gamer kid, he waited until the last possible second to flip the timer back over, so he had like 3 turns instead of 1 turn.
What a bum.
But I think that's just a case of this game is designed for children. It's not designed for gamer adults. It is still fun as gamer adults, but I would probably only play a single round with adults to keep it fun.
Sure.
So yeah, these have been a lot of fun. I am looking forward to reviewing them in another, month or so. And yeah, high quality as I would expect from Chip Theory.
Yeah, these were a real blast. I mean, I don't know necessarily what I expected coming from them, but I'd seen some like Tangram stuff that they have on display at PAX Unplugged, and these were just really fun. They were really cute.
They're really cute, and importantly, they're fun. They're the kind of games we really love to talk about at the Family Gamers, because these are games that kids can play. They're designed for kids, but they're still going to be fun for you as their parents to play with them.
Mm-hmm. I actually also like that they came kind of in a sleeve that contained the 3 of them. So I think that's the way that they're designed to be purchased. I would have to
more or less. I think you will be able to buy them individually as well, but I'm sure they're selling the 3-pack.
Yeah. I don't think any of these games are going to be really... I think all 3 of them for like $50 makes sense. Right? Something along those lines.
Like
I don't think these games are like $20 or $30 games a piece, although maybe $20. That's a kind of a Chip Theory thing. Maybe they're $24.99 a piece, or you can get like 3 for $50 or 3 for $60. I think that would make sense.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't really know. I'm not saying that that's what they're charging. Whatever. All right. So next on the list is Flamecraft. We got a chance to play Flamecraft with our newly burgeoning Monday night game group at our house, I guess. We're up to somewhere between 4 and 6 players any given Monday, which is great. We played Flamecraft at 5. It was a lot of fun.
We had some sick days. And the nice thing about sick days, if a kid is not really sick, is that you can play some kinder, gentler games. So in addition to some of these Chip Theory kids games, we also played Hamster Roll, still really great, and 100 Acre Wood Fluxx. I intend to have a review for this up in 2 weeks, but 100 Acre Wood Fluxx is exactly what it sounds like. It's a Fluxx game based in the Winnie the Pooh universe, specifically the parts of that universe that are public domain. No Disney Winnie the Pooh here. It really is nice, though. If you or your children or both have a fond memory of Winnie the Pooh stories, or if you're reading through them now with your younger kids, 100 Acre Wood Fluxx is a great way to build off of that. It's in that family Fluxx line where it's kinder, gentler Fluxx. You can mess with people if you really want to, but you're rarely going to be forced to.
It looks super adorable. I haven't had the chance to play this one either, because you always play it with our son when he's like homesick or something like that. It seems like the cozy game, right? I don't know.
Well, especially since it's got a rule to play it with stuffies as players.
I get it. I understand. It's very adorable.
It's very adorable.
All right. Next on the list, we played a lot of Kabanga, because it's Kabanga.
More Kabanga.
For those of you who are 90s or 80s kids like us, we have been calling this game Topanga, but you can just laugh on your own. Another game we've been playing a lot is Runemasters. This is going to be a snap review probably next week, I think.
Probably.
Yeah. So Runemasters is a really interesting tower defense game. It is hard. This game is really hard.
It's surprisingly hard. I definitely thought it was going to be easier at 4 players, and guess what? It turns out it's actually way harder at 4 players.
Way harder.
It's much easier at 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're going to be diving a little bit more into what makes it that way.
But a really interesting game. There's up to 4 players. Everybody has asymmetric player powers. You have 4 lanes that you're trying to defend. You're trying to defend this temple. And, you're just trying to survive, really.
Yeah, it's really about survival. It's less about getting rid of the bad guys.
And yet, it doesn't have that, like, warm, fuzzy, emotional connection that the Grizzled does about survival. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
It's because there's no actual enemies in the Grizzled.
I guess. It's
the
like
enemies are psychological.
Yeah, it's like the specter of war. It's just this oppressive thing in the Grizzled. And here it's like fantasy demon guy against fantasy cleric guy. Or
yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly.
All right, sure. And also World War I really happened.
Yes, also that.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Project L? You played this with a friend of ours. I still think I probably haven't played it yet at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Project L is a game that I saw years ago that I was really interested in. It looked really cool. I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger and Kickstarter or anything like that, but I like what I saw. Then our friend Dave, who we've mentioned before, he's written a few reviews for the website, had picked up a copy on some trade or something. And one of the times that I went to visit him at work, we played Project L. And I really liked it. So Project L is a game where you have tiles that are, tetrominoes of some sort, right? They look like Tic Tacs. They literally look like candy. They are shiny plastic. They look delicious.
They look like Tetris pieces.
Yeah. So I guess tetromino would not be correct. Polyomino, because they all have different amounts of squares in them.
Right. They're not just 4 square pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
My apologies. Anyway, so what happens in this game is you start off with a couple of small ones, and you have a row of black backed tiles and a row of white backed tiles. The white ones are easier. The black ones are harder. And on your turn, you can draft these tiles, or you can draft the little pieces, or you can place pieces inside the tiles. So the tiles actually have an inset kind of shape, which you need to fill up, sort of like a tangram, but they're all based on 1 unit squares.
Sure.
So it's not really a tangram that's like making something, but it's some kind of shape that's inset that you're putting the pieces into. Some of them give you points. Some of them give you other pieces. Right? So as you kind of fill them up with your pieces, you can potentially get other pieces for completing them, but you also get your pieces back. Okay? So there's a couple different things you can do on your turn as actions. One, like I said, one is drafting a tile. One is upgrading one of your little chiclet pieces to a bigger one. One of them is to place a chiclet piece into one of your tiles. And then once per round, you can do what's called the master action, or the master builder action, which means you can put one chiclet in each of the up to 4 tiles that you have. So you're kind of setting things up such that you can execute your master builder action to its maximum efficiency. Everything can resolve in whatever order you want to. So you might have a master builder action which clears 2 things, and you get all those pieces back plus the rewards, and then you can use another action to use the pieces that you just got back to put them into, you know what I mean, into something else. And so you just keep doing this thing. The game moves pretty quickly until the stack of black tiles is gone. And then, like, everybody has one last turn, and then you add up, the points that you have on your tiles, and whoever has the most points wins. That's pretty much the game. It's very simple. It's very quick, but I don't know. I like making shapes and looking pretty and stuff. So
yeah.
So that's Project L.
We also played Let's Go to Japan.
Yes, we did. And I was terrible at this game. I knew I was going to be bad.
I mean, I wasn't much better.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting. So this game combines a drafting pick and pass mechanism with ordered set collection, I'll say. Because you're sort of building out a tableau in a way that makes me feel... I don't want to say it feels like Takedo, because really the only connection is that you're visiting Japan and doing stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything like Takedo. I mean, although in the sense you're picking the places to visit, which, like, high concept is what you're
high
doing.
Concept, yeah. But in Let's Go to Japan, there are 2 basic locations, Tokyo and Kyoto, and they have different colored cards. And then each card represents a thing that you're doing in that city. A few of the cards are actually neutral and could be either location, which is great. But what you're doing is you're planning out your trip, and you've got a couple of days to work with. Any card that you take, you can put on any day, and you can put it above, below, or in between the other cards that are already on that day. It's just once you've put a card down, you can't rearrange where it goes. But the thing is that as soon as a day has 3 cards, 3 things to do, that day is full, and you can't add anything else to it. And every time you're going from Tokyo to Kyoto or vice versa, well, that puts a little bit of a pause in your trip. You got to take a train from one to the other. And most of the time, trains are going to make you lose points. There's way more to it than that. Like every time you fill a day with the 3rd card, you then get an immediate bonus of some sort based on, some other stuff and how you matched symbols. But that's the basic idea. When you reach the end of the game, you execute out your trip. And then the top card of each day has some sort of a bonus. If you have at least this, or if you have done this, then you also get this. So it's got a little bit of that engine builder feel, except that your engine only kicks off once. So you're trying to plan it all out and put it all in order in a way that each day will build on the days that came before it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's other games that do stuff kind of like this. That game Far Away that Mark Spector talked about when he was on the show has a little bit of this in it, except in Far Away you have to plan your engine in reverse or something weird like that, which is extra special. And then there's games like Furnace where as you're kind of adding to it and it continues to engine build and stuff like that. So it's a really neat mechanic that I think we've seen in some variants before. But I really love the idea of visiting 2 cities and going back and forth. And, there's a cost to that, right?
Yeah.
Which if I were vacation planning, I would recognize.
Yes, you would.
So I don't know. It was a nice game, really cool. I definitely feel like if I played it more, I would do better at it. And I know you invited me to a game of it on BGA. I don't even know if I've accepted it yet because that's how busy I've been. But, it's out there. You can try to play it. I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
We'll give it another shot.
All right.
You know what's a 2-player game that we have had time to play?
Man. Okay. All right. Okay. This game's not out yet.
No, it's not.
Right, it's not out for a couple months, I think.
Into March.
Okay. I don't tell people that they need to go buy games very often. I'm like, if this sounds appealing to you, you should check it out. Bro. Bro.
Do you want to tell people what the game is?
Do you?
The game is Floristry. It is the very first game coming out from a brand new studio called Up Games.
This game is awesome. This is maybe my 2-player game of 2025.
Very possibly.
It might be. Other than the fact that Jekyll versus Hyde is tiny and fits in a jeans pocket. Yeah. This game is so good. The biggest downside to this game is you need a device.
Yes.
It doesn't have an app. It's a website. I don't know how you would do it without a touch device.
Yeah, it's a website that needs a touch screen.
Yeah, but it's so good.
Yeah. So Floristry is a 2-player bidding game. Is basically what it boils down to.
It is. So, okay. So Floristry is kind of, it's not area control. It's tile placement. The premise of the game is that you are basically growing a garden.
You have rival flower shops.
Yes. 2-player only. 2-player only, which, just makes it even better.
Yeah. You're trying to create the best display in your window, which really just means having similar flowers grouped together, and the bigger those groups are, the more points they score you.
Yeah. So there are 42 tiles in the game. You start with a tile in the middle of your frame.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 40 tiles in a bag. 4 of them come out every round, so it's 10 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
The app, or whatever, the website, it does this cool thing where you have to both put your finger on it and then you let go at the same time, and then the bank vault opens. No, not really, but similar idea, right? There's synchronized releasing of fingers. And this timer starts to count down, and it starts at 5 money and goes to 4 and then 3, and then eventually somebody taps it because they want to buy the tiles.
So there is a rule for what happens if the timer goes to 0.
Okay.
If you're trying to psych each other out and
Sure.
go for the lowest
Yeah,
possible price and wait too long. If the timer goes to 0, those 4 tiles get discarded.
Oh, that's gross. That is gross.
Right?
Wow. Anyway, so somebody bids on them because, hey, you start with $30 or 30 space bucks or whatever
Yes.
you want. 30 flower
flower
petals.
bucks.
Flower bucks. I don't know. I mean, you're going to have money at the end of the game, right? It's the difference between your money that causes any other, leftover scoring. But so whoever bids and air quote wins the bid because they tapped first gets 3 of the 4 tiles, and the 4th tile goes to the other player for free, but the person who won gets to pick which 3. So like the odds of all 4 of them being valuable, possible, not likely.
Well, even if all 4 of them are valuable, there's going to be one that is slightly less valuable.
Of course. And then you take these and you place them in the frame. They have to touch orthogonally an existing tile. That's
normal tile placement kind of stuff.
Normal stuff.
Yeah.
So you do this for 10 rounds and then you score. You are scoring the single largest contiguous thing, no diagonals, of each of the, 6 different kinds of flowers.
Either 5 or 6, yeah.
Here's some of the things I really, really like about this game. Number 1, I love the fact that you're never going to fill your frame. Like, there's no way.
No.
There's no way you're going to fill your frame. And
you would run out of money if you tried to.
Well, I mean, or the other person being very silly, right? Like, I mean.
Yeah.
So that means a lot of things. Number 1, it means you can keep it tight. It means you can spread it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep everything really, really tight, just out of sheer luck or whatever, you can actually move the frame around. So as you're building, if you build and you find yourself up against a wall, you can be like, I can just slide my
Shift
frame
it a little bit
and then open it up on that side because you're never going to fill the whole thing anyway. So the likelihood of you pinning the frame in place accidentally is actually pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that about this game because it doesn't do that Sagrada thing where like near the end of the game, you're like, oh crap, I'm just going to have to throw some junk in here. You just don't have to do that, right?
Yeah.
I feel the same way in Role Player or really any of those games.
Where you're going to fill every spot.
Calico, another great example.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's just part of the puzzle. And here you don't have that. And it's fine.
Yeah.
And it just makes the game feel... I mean, it's still a competitive game, but the pressure is just gone. It's so much better.
Yeah. I also like that you actually see every tile in every game.
Yep.
There's no like bad luck of like, man, I started going all in on blue and then no more blue came out at all. No, all of the blue came out, and if you didn't get any of it, it's because you weren't bidding. You can only blame yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if I really, really wanted to stretch it, I could say something like, okay, well, I went all in on blue and red, and so my plan was to bid high when blue and red came out, and they never, ever came out at the same time.
At the same time, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could say that, right? Because you're going to pick 2 or 3 of the flowers to like really major
to really focus on,
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see that, but even still, like, and this game is so fast. I mean,
yes,
literally around, like, it's 5 seconds of, or so, or maybe it's like 10 seconds of bidding, and then you place your tiles, and then you do it again, and it's all simultaneous. Just this game, bro.
We have not played a game of this that took more than 15 minutes.
This game is like, I took this out when you were going to pick up our robotics child, our robot kid, and
robot kid.
Yeah, on Monday, and I played it with Brendan, who was with us, and like I could kind of see his body language was like, I don't know about this, like when I took it out.
Yeah.
And then we played it. And then I had to go do something, and then you played it with him because you had come back, and then you played it with him again. And then as he left, he's like, that game is awesome.
Yeah.
So
you know why? Because it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good, you guys. It's really, really good. Like, this is a game that I think we're going to take on our trip.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And show a lot more people.
It's really good.
But the other thing I'll say about this is something a lot of really short games tend to miss a little bit is you sit down and be like, let's play it again because that didn't feel like enough. Floristry is, let's play it again because that was really fun and we have more time. But like playing a single game of it, I would feel like I played enough.
Because the decisions matter.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're making decisions that have impact. And I think that's, when you play a game and you're like, that was an appetizer and I wanted a meal.
Right.
It's not that.
Right. This is not that.
Yeah.
It is just, it all fits together so nicely. The tile components are also pretty nicely done. Because they're in a bag, they're all double-sided. And the 2 sides are exactly the same.
Right. They match.
But they're double-sided, so you're not worried about like, oh, I pulled these out and now let me make sure that I flip them all the right way around. No, you literally just pull out 4 and dump them on the table and move on to bidding.
Yep.
So Yeah.
They did so many things. I mean, this is like the Aldi of games, right? They didn't spend money on things that don't matter.
Yes.
They spent time and effort on making things more efficient, right? Like they did it the right way, and it's really good.
Yeah. It is just good.
I'm going to put that in the review. This is the Aldi of board games.
The Aldi of board games.
Look at all these flowers. Boo. Anyway, Floristry from Up Games. Definitely put that on your, up and coming list because it is legit.
I mean, you got a pretty good insight into the review we'll be putting out in 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, we're going to wait until like the game's coming out, but yeah.
But you've heard it here.
We also doubled up on our breakfast dates this week because of Valentine's Day.
It was so nice. Valentine's Day breakfast.
Yeah. And we took out another 2-player game, which was Splendor Duel.
Yeah. Splendor Duel's got a little bit of overhead to get started. Like, even if you've played Splendor before, it's like, wait, there's some symbols here, and what do they mean, and how do we do this part again? But it is nice and tight once you get it up and running. My one concern is that, much like Splendor can be, it can get just a little long for what it is.
So, I was thinking about this. First of all, I still love Splendor Duel. I still love it better than Splendor.
Oh, yeah, same.
For a lot of reasons.
Same.
Not only the fact that the box
is the right size.
Pieces. But I think that the thing that is bothering you about Splendor Duel with regards to the length is a function of the fact that the day before we were playing Floristry.
That could be.
I really think that's part of it, because the way you and I play games is like 65% defensive, 35% offensive. And so like we kind of hoard stuff and it just slows the game down.
Yeah, that's true. Splendor Duel, because you're both picking your gems off this kind of central board, you can make it so that, there's less and less and less gems on the board because you don't want to take the very small penalty, and it is very small, for being the one to refill the board.
Also, when you're hoarding a lot, the refill is less effective because
that is also
have
true,
stuff.
Yes.
So I just think that's one of the big reasons why it made the game slow down quite so much. Like if we were like dealing and trading and building smaller stuff a lot more quickly and things like that, I think the game would have flowed a lot faster. I don't really hold it against the game. I just think it's a style of play. And the fact that we stop to eat.
Also that, yes.
Which might be my favorite part. I just like eating a little bit and playing some board games. Like that's my vacation. Like if we could, do some kind of thing where like we just had like large amounts of food just delivered, at frequent intervals, and we were just playing board games and then just pausing.
Just like, here's some food. We'll eat for a little bit and back to playing games.
Awesome. All right, it's a date. I don't know when. Okay. Anyway.
Summer.
Yeah. All right. So that's what we've been playing. A lot of games there, but a lot of fun as well. And I'm sure we're going to talk about some more crazy games next time.
But first, let's welcome new members to the Family Gamers Facebook community.
Yeah, I wish I was as cute as the sleepy puppy.
Oh,
He's
sleepy puppy.
Adorable.
I just want to pick him up and snuggle him.
I am as sleepy as him, though. Anyway, all right,
let's cute.
Open up the welcoming by saying welcome to Jan or Jan. Depends.
Welcome to Tina.
Welcome to Tatar.
Welcome to Patricia.
Welcome to Doruk.
And Kendra.
And welcome to Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Thanks so much for joining the Facebook community. We really appreciate you being here. Hope that you can dig in and start talking to the almost 1,000 people that are there. And just talk about playing some family games. I think we have a lot of really good conversation in the Family Gamers community. Of course, we have our Backtalk conversations. We talk about what we're playing over the weekends and stuff. And that'll give you some other ideas on some fun games that you might want to play.
Speaking of Backtalk, shall we go through the Backtalk from 2 weeks ago?
Oh, sure. I think we can do that.
So 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about cooperative games, we asked you all, what's your favorite cooperative game? So I'm going to start with Discord, and our friend JP says, we're still playing Zombie Kids and Zombie Teens pretty regularly. Everything about those two games make them absolutely shine for us, but certainly the stickers, the evolving story, and the gameplay are the key reasons we keep coming back. He says that personally he'd also love to revisit The Loop again soon.
Yeah. I mean, that whole like achievement sticker thing in the Zombie Kids games and in Calico and other games, like, it's so brilliant. It's so smart. They really learned from Xbox on that one. I love it. All right. Over on Facebook, Andy Roush says, my kids love Castle Panic.
It's a classic.
Absolutely.
Back on the Discord, Morgify says, I was looking at getting Zombie Kids, as it's often recommended alongside Stuffed Fables for interactive story games. And then several people popped in and be like, Zombie Kids is way simpler than Stuffed Fables. So, hopefully help you figure that out. Zach said he wants to play more Aang's Destiny.
I want to play any Aang's Destiny. I still love the fact that you can play as Appa. I really want to be Appa.
I think we need to let you be Appa.
Yay! Because I'm furry? What?
Because you want to be Appa.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll take it. Back over on Facebook, Ryan Deloney says, The Crew and Frosthaven.
Wow. Okay, those are very different games.
That is exactly what I said back to him.
Yeah. Very
different. Yep. I wonder if one of those is games he plays with his family and one of them is games that he plays with his friends.
Possible.
Very possible.
Olivier took us at our word and said half of his top 20 games are co-op games, so he's going to cheat a little and give us a Family Gamer style list.
Love it.
So for mid to heavy, he really likes Spirit Island, Marvel Champions, Gloomhaven, The Loop, and Mechs vs. Minions.
In his limited communication, he lists The Crew and Hanabi. Great game.
Yep. Mm-hmm. For clue-giving games, he loves Codenames Duet, So Clover, and Just One.
All good games. Under dexterity, he has Flip Ships.
He also says that he didn't like Zombie Kids at all.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. What was that about? I mean, I would say the flashback Zombie Kids, not great.
Zombie Kids Evolution, I can see personally, like I can picture a family where they try it and it just flops.
It just doesn't click.
It just doesn't click.
I mean, that's fine.
It
that's
happens.
Fine. I'm just kind of curious what that entry point was. Maybe it was the original Zombie Kids. I don't know.
Yeah. But he says that he's enjoyed Outfoxed when his kids were really young, Castle Panic, although it's a little long for younger kids. We agree it's a little long for younger kids. And his 6-year-old really enjoys The Gang, The Mind, and Similo. Those are all great.
Those are very, very good choices. He also says that for him, co-op games are such a big part of his life that it's not just a game mechanism like tiling or worker placement. It's about half of what he plays.
Yeah. Building off 2 weeks ago, Kristen says, I have excellent taste in games. Like me, Anitra, I have excellent taste in games, and she'd love to meet up and play one day. We'll figure it out someday, Kristen. You don't live that far away. But her current favorite co-ops are SOS Dino with her littlest guy, Spotlight with her 8-year-old, and 5-Minute Dungeon or 5-Minute Mystery with her family. She hopes to try a legacy co-op sometime.
So I think the thing that I will just say about legacy games, because this has come up with us a couple of times, is you do have to be really careful about it, because I've found, at least with our kids, like 4 plays of the same game, and they're
we're
kind of done with that game for a while. And, I think that's something that adults do a better job of knowing is going to happen, I guess, and kind of expecting that mechanism is going to repeat over and over again, for the purposes of a legacy story experience. But our kid, like, the number of games that our kids have gotten a quarter of the way through, a third of the way through, and they're just sitting there, and I'm like, can we please play this game? And they're just, no.
They're just losing it.
They're just not interested.
Well, and Zombie Kids Evolution is the one outlier to that.
Well, and I think it's because of all the achievements and all that extra side stuff. I really, really do.
There is always something when you reach the end of that game. You've gotten some kind of award, and once you get through a few of them, you've got options to branch out and do these extra little achievements and stuff too, on top of advancing the standard legacy part of the game. I can't say campaign because it's not really a campaign, but the standard legacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you just have to be really careful and selective when you figure out what that legacy co-op is going to be, unless you, like it as a piece of art.
Yeah.
All right. Adrienne says, my favorite is Pandemic the Cure, the dice version of Pandemic. Honorable mention to Atlantis Rising. For a family-friendly co-op, I like Zoo Break, where you are trying to prevent the animals from escaping the zoo.
I know nothing about Zoo Break, but
me either.
Interested. Ken says, we just received our Dice Throne missions for X-Men, and I'm pretty sure that's going to have the top spot for a while. I've heard great things about that already.
Yep.
Before that, Core Quest was the game we enjoyed the most and had the least amount of quarterbacking with. Important. For 2 players, Sky Team is absolutely amazing.
Agreed.
We agree. And he's asking if sometime soon we can talk about dungeon crawlers that are family-friendly. I think we did that with A Room to Grow like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think we did.
And 2-player co-ops, which is on our short list of things to talk about, but we need to play some more of them first.
Yeah, I mean, we did 2-player games.
But we haven't done 2-player co-ops.
2-player co-ops very specifically. All right, well, audience requested. I mean, we'll have to see what we can do. The Joyful Jedi says, I just love the simplicity of the mind. It's so socially interactive. So many moments of surprise. I know it's not for everyone. My wife doesn't get it, for example. And for me, it's not about winning. I play with talking that aligns with the spirit of the rules. I like it.
Yeah, he says his collection is 95% cooperative
Wow.
games.
All right.
All right.
There you go. Maybe we'll have the Joyful Jedi on the show to talk about cooperative games.
Maybe. But then on the flip side, Peter says, we have trouble with cooperative games. I tend to see a lot of the patterns, and then I have to be quiet, which means I don't give a lot of feedback because I don't want to be that guy. We've enjoyed Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, but I suspect we're playing something wrong there because when we broke it out last time, we drowned. Commissioned has been interesting and tries to get away from the alpha player problem, as does Deliverance. He says he also enjoys Pandemic the Cure. Probably our favorites are the exit/escape/unlock games. Something about solving the puzzles and trying to beat the timer. Those are pretty fun up until your mind just is not meshing with the puzzle creator's mind.
I totally understand what you're saying,
yeah, me
Peter.
too.
That whole not meshing thing. It's like, I don't even, what is this puzzle? What? And I would say, not to beat a dead horse, but I think that Jonathan Chafer with the Holiday Hijinks series does a really good job of puzzles that are contextually appropriate and obvious. I don't think they're easy per se. They do take figuring out, but like a lot of the times the set of mechanics are like really clever. Like the last one was the marriage mix-up, which we talked about, and it had us separate into the bride and the groom side and have partial information for puzzles, which was so thematically appropriate. Like he did a really good job with that. And, the Groundhog Gambit is the one where you keep going through
the same puzzles,
the same cards.
Yeah.
And they have slightly different stuff on them somehow. It's like this weird...
You're paying attention to different things on the cards. It's really cool.
It's really cool. It is really neat. But generally speaking, I haven't run into that same... I just was on a different wavelength than whoever made this puzzle issue with those games as I have with other games. But maybe that's just us and the way that we think through things, kind of like Jonathan. I don't know.
We have needed hints a few times, but usually once we get the hint, things start to make sense in a way that I have not found to be true with other
necessarily
escape games.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the hint helps everything click as opposed to the hint being like, cool, we got one step further. Now what? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Derek Bruff says, our family went through a phase of playing a lot of The Crew. My wife's family plays a lot of Hearts at family gatherings, so playing The Crew was like spring training for the kids. And I would love more coverage of cooperative games. The two other board game podcasts I regularly listen to aren't fans of co-ops, but I am. Well, Derek,
so
we're here for you.
And I'm not surprised that you're a fan of co-ops. Derek Bruff runs the First Player Token podcast, and I think 2 out of his last 3 or 4 episodes have been about a co-op game. Yeah.
Well, I guess we have to talk about cooperative games.
I mean, that's the plan, right?
Yeah. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. You are going to hear a snap review. And when we come back, we're going to talk Room to Grow cooperative games.
We'll be right back. Andrew, when you're driving somewhere, how do you usually navigate?
I actually usually have a pretty good sense of direction, so I can generally just kind of get a feel for north, south, east, west, and then I usually kind of go in the general direction I'm trying to get to, and I figure I'll notice something eventually that I recognize, and then when I get close, I pull out ye old Siri GPS.
For me, I usually look at a map before I get started, but then I really depend on landmarks to keep me oriented because my sense of direction is terrible.
Well, what if we stopped talking about how we drove around and instead we talked about a game that's all about finding or giving clues to the right landmarks?
This is a snap review for Landmarks.
Landmarks is a cooperative word-guessing game by Danilo Valente and Rodrigo Rego. The box says it's for 2 to 10 players, ages 10 and up, and it plays in about 20 minutes.
Landmarks is published by Floodgate Games.
So, Anitra, let's talk about the sweet art in this game.
The very first thing I noticed about this game was the board. It's actually a cloth map overlaid with hexagons. It's a great way to really imbue this word game with some thematic flair.
And the reverse side is just plain hexagons, if the map style is visually confusing for anybody on your team.
The second thing is the dry erase components. There's a marker, a bunch of double-sided hexes, and the tracker board. They're all pretty good quality and erase pretty well.
The third, and maybe the most important feature, are the cards. Each one of these has a mini map with symbols for everything the clue giver needs to know, and there's a cute little stand to hold it so that only the clue giver can see it.
So we've got a map and dry erase tiles, but you said this is a word guessing game. How does that work?
Alright, well, one person is the Pathfinder, while the rest of the players make up the party. The Pathfinder randomly selects a map card, green for an easier challenge or yellow for a standard challenge. They place it in that card stand so that only they can see it. Then they write the 3 starting words from the bottom of the map, each onto a separate hex tile, and place them in their corresponding locations on the island mat.
Put the tracker board where everyone can see it, with 7 blank hex tiles in a stack. It's the Pathfinder's job to help direct the party to find at least one treasure and then get to the exit before their tile stack runs out.
Each round, the Pathfinder comes up with a 1-word clue and writes it on a hex tile. They reveal it to the party, and then the party decides where to place it on the map. The new tile must physically connect to at least one existing tile.
How do you figure out where it should go? Well, the Pathfinder should give a word clue that thematically connects to other words on the board.
In this example, the landmarks we're starting with are curling, village, and frown. The Pathfinder writes winter. Where should that tile go?
The party can discuss where they think the new word should go, but eventually they'll have to make a decision. Now the Pathfinder consults their map and announces the effect of the space the party chose. The possible effects are, for a blank space, nothing happens.
A treasure space. Mark a treasure on the tracker board. You're one step closer to winning the game.
A curse. Having a curse prevents you from leaving the island. Oh no!
But there's the amulet. The amulet cancels out one curse. It doesn't matter if you get the amulet before or after finding a curse.
Water. Refill the tile stack on the tracker board up to your water limit.
Trap. A trap makes you remove a tile from the stack on your tracker board immediately and permanently reduces your water limit.
And of course, there's the exit. If you found the exit and you have at least one treasure and no active curses, you win. If you have all the treasures, you super win.
But if you found the exit and have more curses than amulets, you lose. And if you run out of tiles before finding the exit, you lose too.
In addition to the 2 difficulty levels, there's also a team versus team variant with a different set of map cards. Flip over the tracker board to the team side. Now each team has a Pathfinder who gives clues to help them find their own color-coded treasures. There are no limits on the tile stack and no exit, but there are still curses which will prevent a team from winning the game. Whoever finds 4 treasures first will win. So that's how we play. What did we expect from Landmarks?
Well, I was a little skeptical at first. We've played a lot of clue-giving word games, and they do start to feel a little samey after a while. Landmarks was pitched to me as Codenames meets Just One, so, that's what I was expecting.
I saw a demo of this game, and it looked like it had enough of a twist that it would stay interesting. This sort of exploration vibe does feel a little bit like Codenames, but in a way that much more obviously builds off of previous clues.
So that's what we expected. What surprised us?
Well, being the Pathfinder is a lot harder than you would think. A lot harder. Obviously, it can be hard to come up with really good clues to direct the party in the way you want them to go, but you also need to be thinking ahead of how the clues you give are going to affect future clues. We played a game where you kept trying to direct us with similar clues, and we ended up debating as a group if mission belonged only with Crusade or if it also belonged with Treasure.
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing about this game. You really do need to think multiple clues ahead. You described exactly what happened when I was the clue giver. If you've got a hexagon with multiple edges that are open and don't relate to other hexagons, there's no way to clue your friends into which one of those faces you actually want them to use.
Yeah, we want that one, not that one. You're not allowed to do that.
And so the strategy there actually gets really interesting. That being said, for me, this game varied wildly from very easy to very hard, depending on the map tile that we happened to use. It felt like there was a lot of opportunity that was kind of wasted if the only goal is to get at least one treasure and get out. I know there's kind of supposed to be this goal of getting 4, but really most of the time any success is what we ended up going with. And this is one of the reasons why I think the team mode is going to stand the test of time better than the fully cooperative mode in this game. There really is a race in the team mode, and it's a much more desperate goal to get all 4 of the treasures, which is honestly way harder. For my money, future games of Landmarks are going to be in the team versus team part of the game. Otherwise, I'd rather just get one of those games that are way easier to get to the table, like So Clover or Just One.
We recommend Landmarks if you're looking for a new way to play word guessing games with a group of people who like to battle it out.
This combination of navigating around a map and planning for future word clues does breathe a little bit of new life into this genre.
We give Landmarks 3.5 map tiles out of 5.
And that's Landmarks in a snap.
And we're back.
All right, so like we said on the top half, Room to Grow co-op. So obviously a lot of you had a lot of opinions about cooperative games. So this part of the show, maybe you don't need the ramp up, but I bet you there are some people listening that would like to figure out what cooperative games they can play with their family. And so that's what we're going to focus on this week.
Our goal with Room to Grow is to bring your kids or your family through a series of games that grow in complexity. Normally we take a beginner game, an intermediate game, and an advanced game. Since we are the family gamers, there are usually also some honorable mentions in there somewhere.
It's what we do. Come on.
But we're trying to offer a plan for growth so players can get comfortable with a specific kind of mechanic. In this case, cooperative games. And always family-friendly games, so no Dead of Winter here. Sorry,
Or,
Derek.
I mean, Frosthaven's just not going to make
Frosthaven
it.
also not going to happen. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about cooperative games. We kind of talked about this a little bit last episode, but for people who, all right, who didn't listen to that one, what's the point? Why do we play cooperative games?
Well, cooperative games encourage players to work together. I think parents will find that when you're playing games with very, very young children who are just starting to learn how game rules work, there's gonna be an element of cooperation even if the game is not intended to be cooperative. Sort of a, remember you need to do this, or let's think about the decisions you can make here. Just talking through things, or everybody helping each other along the path for whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. For us, we've got 2 boys. They are, 3 years apart in age, and guess what that means they do a lot?
Fight.
So cooperative games are a really good way to put them on the same team.
Yes.
And, Peter talked a little bit about that whole quarterbacking issue. The key there as parents is that we're kind of the policy holder, the lifeguard, the adjudicator. Arbiter. We're the ones making sure that neither one of them quarterbacks the other, basically. I don't care. My goal in playing a cooperative game with my kids is not to win, because I can't win unless everybody wins. Mm-hmm. My goal is not to min-max the game to victory.
It's not?
Not not when I'm playing a game with the family. My goal is to make sure that they work together. That's the goal of the game.
That's the goal.
Not victory.
Yes.
So they can lose together. I don't care. It is healthy for your kids to lose at games, by the way. And if they do it together, fine.
Well, and that's part of the other purpose of playing cooperative games, is that if you have kids who really struggle with losing, well, now we're all winning or losing together. Mm-hmm. If you have kids who struggle with rubbing it in other players' faces when they win, once again, we all win or lose together.
Another thing that this does is it continues to help with the process of learning how to take turns without the need for one child or one person to feel like they have to use their turn to lash out for something that happened on the last turn. Right? They want to take their turn because they want to be the hero of the story, and that's fine, and they need to wait to take their turn when they're not currently allowed to be the hero of the story, and that's fine. But everybody is always rooting for success, whether it is their turn or not.
Yep.
And so it eases the dynamic of the back and forth of turn taking into something that is really just about taking your turn, not about getting back at someone.
Yeah.
which is, I think, a really helpful part of cooperative games.
So let's talk about our room to grow games.
Yeah, so the first one on this list, again, we talk about a beginner game, an intermediate game, and an advanced game. And the first one on this list is my first version of some other games. And I have to be honest with you, the regular games are not on this list on purpose.
Yes.
They might be honorable mentions, but they are not on the list on purpose. The beginner game on this list is My First Castle Panic.
So My First Castle Panic is exactly what it sounds like. It is a tower defense game designed for 3, 4, 5-year-olds. It does just a fantastic job at that. On your turn, you draw a card, so usually have 2 cards in your hand, so you can pick one of those 2 cards to play to match one of the monster spots on the path up to the castle. However, if neither of the cards in your hand are going to work, you can ask the other players for help. Oh, I only have a green triangle and a blue triangle, and the monsters are on a red triangle and a blue square. Does anybody else have a red triangle or a blue square? When you ask for help, you're basically trading cards with another player, or they're playing a card on your behalf. But again, that's you're the hero right now, but I'm the, supporting cast, and I'm helping too, which is a wonderful, wonderful dynamic to have in a game that's so basic. Like, there's no reading, it's just color and shape matching.
Mm-hmm. So the color and shape matching kind of replaces, the color is the color, but it replaces the different numbers when you roll on the die or any of that stuff. Basically, My First Castle Panic is 1 lane of the 6-lane board that Castle Panic is.
Yep.
With some additional complexity removed as well. This is one of those games that when you defeat a monster, you put it in the box, so you're cleaning up while you play. We really, really love it.
Love that too.
I remember when we first got My First Castle Panic into review, and we looked at it and we said, how can you simplify Castle Panic? Right? It was very difficult for us to conceptualize that, but this does a fantastic job doing it. And I will say, because I do have purchase statistics from our Amazon affiliates, that this is hands down the most bought game from anything that has ever been bought with an affiliate link from us on Amazon. Like, by a lot. Incredibly popular, incredibly good, incredibly appropriate. This is one of those games that we would walk out in the living room and see our kids playing it without us setting it up for them, without us getting involved. They were just doing their thing. They can play it solo. They can play it cooperative. It's fantastic.
Yeah. We really can't say enough good things about this game. Some kids might not be thrilled with the idea of you're fighting off monsters and throwing them in a dungeon. But once again, you're throwing them in a dungeon. You're not actually hurting them, okay?
Sure. Right.
Sure.
And Batman wasn't killing anyone either.
But that is literally the only possible drawback I can find for this game, that the theme just might not hit with some kids. But it is just the right level for an early cooperative game. And once again, there are still some decisions to make there. As an adult, you could quarterback this game if you really felt like you needed to, but you probably won't need to.
All right. So that is My First Castle Panic, and it's an excellent beginner cooperative game. Our intermediate game is a game that you, in fact, have already heard about.
Twice, I think.
Yeah, and that is Zombie Kids Evolution. So this is a cooperative game. It is a legacy game, so we've talked about it in that regard as well. It is definitely more complicated than My First Castle Panic, but not by a ton.
Yeah, well, and these are both tower defense games of a type. You're trying to beat back the monsters and survive. But in Zombie Kids Evolution, the monsters are just going to keep coming unless you can cooperate to lock the gates. Depending on the scenario you're in, it might be 2 gates, it might be 4 gates, whatever. But you don't only go fight monsters on your own turn and ignore everything else. You are forced to cooperate to stem the tide.
Yeah, there are actual goals that you need to achieve in this game. As you play, depending on how well you do, you get these little achievement stickers, and you score them in the rulebook, and when you hit certain thresholds, you're allowed to open some envelopes, which give you more stuff. And so this process of working through the game and going through the pseudo not really story of the game is something that kids really respond extremely well to. There are certain kinds of achievements in the game, like do this by only doing X, or by, doing whatever within 10 turns, or, nobody actually kills anything, or, all these different kinds of ways and variants that are baked in to provide more achievements for the kids to play.
And those things encourage experimentation.
Yep.
Like our kids, the 3 of them played it a lot, but then there were achievements that required you to play with just 2 players. There were achievements that required you to play with 4 players. And so it'd be like, Mom, come play with us so we can play this at 4 players. Because of all of this other stuff baked in and the unlocking of complexity as you go through the game, because I don't think we mentioned that, the legacy aspect of this game slowly ramps up the complexity. There are special powers for the player characters. There are special powers for the zombies. You add those slowly over time. Mm-hmm. That whole process will get kids and even adults, when they're playing, to think about different ways to handle the different challenges that the game throws at you, and really will shepherd you through a process of getting better at cooperative games, getting better at cooperating with the people you're normally playing with.
Mm-hmm. Our kids, and we've talked to some other people who have had the same experience, were hungry for more. When we went into the board game store after they had played Zombie Kids Evolution and they saw the Zombie Teens Evolution box, it was absolutely insufferable. I mean, it was awful. We had already bought it and wrapped it and put it under the tree, but
it didn't matter. They didn't know.
They had no idea, and it was constant deflection. So, they loved it to the point where they were desperate for more content in the series.
Yeah. And that has not been true of very many board games in our lives.
Right. Especially the legacy stuff, as I mentioned before. So that's Beginner, My First Castle Panic, and Intermediate, Zombie Kids Evolution. Advanced is a game that is a little bit more complicated, still a great family title, asymmetric player, really powers and goals.
Yeah.
In this next one, and our advanced game is Disney Animated.
So Disney Animated is, again, the kind of cooperative game that everyone really has their own things they need to do, but you are forced to cooperate to make the game hold together. It is hard to fully quarterback this game because everybody has bits and pieces of goals that are very individual to them, in addition to the joint goal of keeping the calamities down and defeating the villains.
Yeah. So Disney Animated, I'm just going to throw this out there now, is available for $35 on Amazon, which I think is a very fair price. But I don't really know who owns it anymore, because it was a Funko title.
It was a Funko game,
and Funko got bought. So,
but it's still available.
It's still,
it's fine.
I guess I'm not really big on the whole FOMO thing, but I just don't know if it's going to stay available, I guess is what I'm saying here. Anyway, Disney Animated is great. It is classic Disney movies. You kind of play as who really are you? You're you're like part of the animation studio, kind of putting
for a
the
specific
story together.
movie. Yeah,
for a specific movie, and it's just an absolute fun, almost nostalgic experience, I would say, because you're looking at the characters and the titles and the classic Disney animation, and it's just beautiful. And, you've got 101 Dalmatians in there. You have Aladdin. You have
Alice in Wonderland, Snow White, and Fantasia.
Yeah. I would love for there to be additions or expansions for this game.
Not sure it's going to happen.
It really feels like a pure Disney experience, and they've done a really, really good job. And like Anisha said, the fact that each person has their own player board and they're kind of doing their own thing on their own player board, and you can maybe quarterback a little bit, but ultimately, unless people are reaching over the table and changing stuff in front of you, which, if it gets to that level, hopefully someone's calling that out, it really does kind of support a little bit of autonomy, which I like a lot.
Yeah, it's this great combination of everybody's got their own individual things they're trying to do, but you also have a group goal. And the group goal, in the end, requires all the players to hit their individual goals as well. So once you get far enough into the game, if it's pretty obvious that you're not just going to lose, the villains aren't just going to swoop in and destroy everything, you may find yourself, having completed all of your goals, needing to just use your turn to support other players in their pursuit of completing their goals, which is a really neat mechanic that we don't often see in cooperative games, but it really makes it hold together super well.
Well, and completing your goals does make it easier for the other players.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, in animated, because one of the villains is now gone.
Yeah.
So that's our list, our official list. We've got beginner, My First Castle Panic, intermediate, Zombie Kids Evolution, advanced, Disney animated. But of course, we are the Family Gamers, so there are many honorable mentions. Obviously, if My First Castle Panic is a beginner game, regular Castle Panic deserves to be in this list somewhere. Then there are classics like Pandemic as well.
Yeah, we've really loved Horrified as a family. That's a fantastic cooperative game where you're beating back monsters of all different types depending on which Horrified game you're playing.
So for those of you who don't know, there's the classic one, which is Universal Studios Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
There's the kind of American
Monsters
one, which is like urban legends from American history kind of
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, like Bigfoot kind of stuff.
Yep. Then there's the Greek one, which we have World of Monsters, which just came out a little bit ago, and they have announced Dungeons and Dragons Horrified.
Yeah.
Which we have indicated our interest for, just so you know. So there's all sorts of different kinds of Horrifieds. I really like this because it's kind of like, what is your family into? You can pick the one that's, do you like vanilla or chocolate? Like, whatever you want.
I also see at some point our family playing more Unmatched Adventures because we love Unmatched.
Yeah, Unmatched Adventures is the cooperative team against one. There's a second one, which is like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think.
Yes.
But it was just a little bit too expensive for me, so passed on that one. But really
we've only played
the Mothman one that we have.
Yeah, we've only played Unmatched Adventures, I think, once, so we don't need more of that right now.
Yeah.
But there's also stuff like Marvel United or Marvel Champions or even The Loop, which got mentioned earlier, or Endangered, which is a cooperative game that I really enjoy and which has educational potential.
What? Yeah, there are really just tons of options out there. The Joyful Jedi said 95% of his collection was cooperative games.
Wow.
So, which is a lot, right? And I think someone else said that 50% of what they play, Olivier said 50% of what he plays is cooperative games. So they're a huge, huge part of the board game world, and there's lots and lots of options. But if you're just getting started, these are our suggestions. My First Castle Panic, Zombie Kids Evolution, Disney Animated. And with that, we come to our new Backtalk question, which, typically we have a Backtalk question related to our topic, which was cooperative games, which was last week's Backtalk question, which means I have to come up with a new one. So I just want to learn a little bit more about the people that listen to the Family Gamers podcast, and I want to know, what's your favorite candy or snack?
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. What's yours, Anitra?
Oh, well, I think my favorite candy is still peanut butter cups.
I knew that one.
They don't have to be Reese's. If you get a good high quality dark chocolate
like
peanut butter cup, like a Justin's, like those are real good too.
I know. My healthy one is going to be like peanut butter with celery or with apples.
Sure.
Like apple slices. But candy wise, I really like the Outrageous bar.
Yeah. Our daughter had one of those last night.
Yeah. You know why? They're really good.
It's too much.
You think so?
It's too much. Yeah.
Okay. Also, Kit Kats. I really
like Kit Kats.
A lot. So, so I would love to know what everybody's favorite snack and or candy. You can do both. You can do one. You can do the other. I don't really care, but we'd love to know.
And where can people tell us that, Andrew?
Well, you teed that one up for me, Anitra. You can find us all over the internet at Family Gamers AA. Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Family Gamers AA. The best places to actually find the question for this Backtalk is at the Facebook community, thefamilygamers.com/community, or search for the Family Gamers community on Facebook, or you can join the Family Tabletop community on Discord. You can get an invite by going to thefamilygamers.com/Discord.
And of course, there are links to all of these things in the show notes. So you could pause your podcast right now, open up the show notes for this podcast episode. All of these links are there. All of them.
Yep. Of course, you can always email us, Andrew at thefamilygamers.com.
Anitra at thefamilygamers.com.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the show, tell your friends about the show, and leave us a review at Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on Amazon Music, on TuneIn, on Spotify, or you can just pull us up on YouTube Music and listen to the podcast there.
The Family Gamers is sponsored by First Move Financial. You should go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers. And when you're there, you can learn how the team at First Move Financial can help you pile up the victory points in real life.
Cash.
Yeah.
All right, so that's going to do it for us this week. We've got lots of games to play, but we're excited to play them and talk all about them in a couple of weeks. So until then, everybody,
Play games with your kids.